This incident happened back in the day when I was a teenager and visited my grandmother's village in the summer holidays. Just like me, my few cousins also visited my grandmother with their family, and I remember we all used to play the whole day without getting tired, and it was very fun. We used to go for walks, roam in the field, get snacks, and basically play any fun games that we could. It was very fun for me until one day I and my cousins decided to visit a place that has a lot of mango trees. It was raining that day, and when the rain stopped, we decided to go to that place. At first, I was afraid and was thinking what would happen if the tree owner caught us. But because I wasn't alone and was in a group, I didn't think much and head out with all my cousins to explore that place. We were 7 people in the group, and when we reached there, indeed there were a lot of mango trees on which delicious mangoes were hanging. Immediately, my cousins decided to grab some for all of us. The boys of the group decided to do this, and they were almost successful. Not after a few minutes, the owner of the trees came running to almost beat us. The moment we saw the owner running towards us, we immediately ran far away from that place. We were running for some minutes and only stopped when we looked behind, and the owner was nowhere to be seen. While running, we felt relieved that we got away, and I was about to stop running, but in that moment I didn't notice a wet swamp beside me, into which my foot slipped, and all I could remember was that in the next moment I fell into that wet mud of the swamp. My cousins started laughing, not because they were making fun of me, but because they were helplessly laughing at how clueless I was to not notice the big swamp in front of me. Because it rained a while ago, the mud was too slippery, resulting my foot to slip like that, and I realized that the swamp I fell in was too deep as it covered my body up to my abdomen. To be honest, I was laughing with my cousins as well for some minutes until I noticed something. And when I realized it, my heart dropped and I screamed out of my lungs. I realized that the swamp I was in wasn't just ordinary wet mud, but I was sinking inside it. It was deeper and deeper, and I don't know how deep it was, and this realization almost made me panic and scream for help. Now, my cousins looked at me, and I thought they would immediately help me. But in the next second, they all started laughing even harder, telling me how good my acting skills are. They said it because they were thinking that the swamp I was in was an ordinary swamp, like how I thought a while ago. But the fact that they didn't know what kind of a deadly situation I was in, and when I realized that nobody was taking me seriously, I started crying so hard. Because I was a teenager, I didn't have much knowledge about it. People who are stuck in a wet, muddy swamp shouldn't panic and shouldn't move constantly, or else they can sink much further and it can make the situation even worse. But at that time, with the lack of knowledge, I did the exact thing I wasn't supposed to do. I started shaking my body in order to save my life and trying to get out, but I realized the more I was doing it, the more I was sinking inside the swamp deeper and deeper. It was like a slow death. You're experiencing it slowly, but you cannot do anything but helplessly stay there to witness the process that in the end will take your life. My mind got paralyzed at that time. I didn't know how to save myself. And when I saw my cousins still weren't taking me seriously, I started fearing for my life at that point. And all I could think of was that I have to save myself no matter what, or else I would die today. Which made me start screaming for my life. I kept on screaming, and in the next second, my cousin, who wasn't present at that time, suddenly came and saw my situation. And when he saw the way I was screaming, he ran towards me and grabbed my hands. This thing got the attention of my other cousins as well, and when they saw I was almost sunk to my chest area, they realized that I wasn't actually acting and ran towards me as well. All of them pulled me hard and get me out of the swamp as I fell on the ground, still not believing that I survived this thing. I almost thought I would die today as lying on the ground. I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't looking at anything. Just looking at nothing and thinking to myself that I survived. I could faintly hear my cousin, who saved me, yelling at others about how careless they were to leave me in a swamp and didn't do anything to save me. He was so mad he couldn't believe how these people could do this to someone. All of them were continuously apologizing to me, saying that they didn't know that the swamp was this dangerous. They were uttering words continuously out of terror, but that didn't matter to me because honestly, at that time, laying there on the ground, All I could think about was how thankful I was that I survived. Otherwise, thinking about dying by sinking in wet, slippery mud gave chills to my whole body. As an adult to this day, I make sure to not to get near the swamps. Even the slippery mud on the ground triggers me sometimes. But I am fine now, and I hope sometimes people act carefully and pay attention to serious situations, or else it could cost them their life. It was the month of November and the winter holidays in my school had just begun. I was in 8th standard and the holiday homework that I got from school was not something to be stressed about. In winter, people usually like staying at their home in cozy, warm environments, but as for me, this winter, my parents and I decided to visit my grandparents in the village. Despite living in a village, my grandparents have a pretty nice and big house, and whenever I visit them, I feel really happy and comfortable to be at their house. It was 8 p.m. that night when we reached our village. The weather was cold as usual as I wore my cap to protect my ears from the cold. Anyway, the moment I stepped out of the car, I noticed a lady in black clothes was standing outside my grandparents' house staring at me. Immediately, I was creeped out just by looking at her outfit. What in the world is she wearing? I immediately thought. I wasn't judging her outfit, but the way she carried herself was giving off a very dark and uncanny aura. And on the top of that, the way she was staring at me out of nowhere for no reason at all caught me off guard. My parents didn't notice this as they were busy taking the bags out of the car. As ignoring the lady, I also took my stuff, shrugged my shoulders, and head inside the house. When we got inside, it was a warm welcome from my grandparents, and we had a great time, talking and laughing until it was the time for dinner. I excused myself to use the washroom. When I got back from the washroom, I suddenly halted in my place when I saw the lady I saw outside the house a while ago, sitting on the sofa in the living room besides my family. My temples started to sweat when I saw how she again continued to stare at me the moment her eyes fell on me. Her face was expressionless and her eyes weren't leaving me. I observed the surroundings. My parents and grandparents were busy talking to each other, and that lady was just sitting there quietly, not talking to anyone at all. No one was even engaging with her in a conversation, which made me question my sanity, and a thought came into my head. What if only I am able to see this lady and no one else? What if this lady is a spirit and I'm encountering a paranormal experience? My body trembled at this thought and it started to turning cold. I was looking at the lady and she was looking at me. I noticed she wasn't even blinking for so long. She was just sitting there staring at me as if she had known me and wanted me to approach her. But the fact that I was about to break down, I didn't dare to move from my place out of terror. My heart was dropping and I really couldn't think straight about what to do in that situation. And just when I was about to break down, on my spot, my grandfather spotted me and called me to come towards him. Not taking my eyes off the lady, I slowly walked towards my grandfather and I widened my eyes when suddenly my grandfather introduced me to that lady. I was shocked, so it wasn't a spirit and actually everyone can see her. Nobody knows how relieved I felt at that moment. Maybe I look like a stupid, but I know I wasn't acting stupid when the lady kept on continuously staring at me like a freak. My thoughts were cut off when my grandfather told me that the lady's name is Kyla, and when I was a baby, Kyla used to be a caretaker of me. Kyla had a granddaughter that was about my age, but in an accident, that granddaughter died. He told me that I remind Kyla of her granddaughter so much that is why she is here to meet me today. I didn't know what to say when my grandfather told me that. I respect Kyla's feeling towards me, but I would be lying if I say I wanted to meet her in the first place because I was getting scared of this lady. But anyway, still respecting the feelings of the elders, I shake hands with Kyla. They were cold, which sent a chill down my spine for some reason. Kyla gave me a box as a gift, which I took anyway, and after that, she left. I was relieved when she left. When I opened the box, there was some chocolates and a picture of me when I was 3 years old, and Kyla who was holding me with another girl. And when I saw that another girl, I dropped that photo. It was her granddaughter and she almost looked like me, as if her granddaughter is my twin sister. If I had no blood relation with this girl, how is she almost identical to me? I asked my family about it and they said it was just a coincidence. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but that explains why Kyla was continuously staring strangely at me like that. We stayed at our grandparents' house for a few days, but I didn't see Kyla again. But why her granddaughter looked identical to me still remains a mystery to me to this day. This story takes place when I visited my village in the summer vacations with my family. We were staying at one of our uncle's houses, and I remember every day I used to go explore the village with my sister, as it was very fun every day. Exploring the village became a part of our routine that time, as we used to religiously explore all the places we liked. Now, there was one time when I and my sister changed plans and decided to go to one of our cousins' houses, which wasn't very far from my uncle's house. But the thing was, the road that would lead us towards our cousin's house was a bit strange and barren. We were told by the elders that we can go there but cannot travel from that road at night. We strictly cannot do that because in the day the road is safe, but at night criminals, robbers and thugs are seen there. My uncle told us not to go as he would himself take us there tomorrow, but because I and my sister were quite young and stubborn at that time, we sneaked out anyway and headed towards our cousin's home. As I said before, we were quite young at that time, so we didn't really think much about anything. We both told each other that before night we both would return home, so it wasn't much of a big deal for us. Anyway, we head out and started walking, mainly chatting and talking about things we're interested in. Not until after some time we indeed reached that barren road everyone warned us about. And to be honest, it was indeed quite a strange road. Trees looked dry, and not a single human could be seen there. The road was weird and strange, just like how people told us about, and at that point, I became a bit hesitant to go any further. I was a bit anxious, but after my sister reassured me, we continued our journey, where after some time, we reached our cousin's home. We were happy and felt relieved, where we had quite a lot of fun throughout the whole day, but in that process, we forgot to look at the clock and forget that we had to return home before night. My sister and I kind of became anxious. Immediately saying goodbye to our cousin, we quickly head out to return home. It wasn't very dark when we were going back home, so we thought we would reach home soon, but that is when we were wrong, because no matter how fast we were walking, we realized that it was almost 7:30 and the darkness was spreading everywhere. My sister and I looked at each other and realized that indeed we are stuck in a situation everyone told us not to get in. I was afraid of walking any further because there were no street lights and the dry leaves were looking scary and uncanny in the darkness. My sister told me that the less we think and the more we walk, the faster we can get out of this situation. So that's what I did. And following her, I was walking very fast, but not until we heard low voices from a distance. And as we looked closer, a group of men was standing in the distance chatting with each other. If I could tell clearly, then by looking at their direction, they were wearing large clothes, they were dirty, and a few men were covering their faces. I looked at my sister, and she was already looking in that direction, watching everything, and her eyes were wide open out of terror. Indeed, they were thugs. We were extremely terrified about what would happen next, and we were praying to God to save us from this situation. Not until after 5 minutes did we see a few motorbikes coming towards our direction. We got horrified thinking they must be some robbers or thugs. But when we clearly saw that, my uncle, his son, and a police officer with him were there to fetch us. The moment we saw them, we ran towards them and hugged our uncle. We told uncle about everything. And when we looked towards the same direction, the group of men we saw a while ago, not even a single soul could be seen there after that. It looked like seeing the police officer coming, the thugs ran and escaped. I thanked God and these people for saving us. My uncle indeed scolded me and my sister for such careless behavior, to which we apologized and learned our lesson to be careful next time. But they thought that if uncle didn't come at the right time, what could have happened? Nobody knows.